That's about as American as it gets, bro.
It's America.
Is this thing on?
Check 1 2 1 2.
It's fucking crazy.
They're invincible, indestructible, and he's living for like 10,000 years.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hunt for Greatness podcast.
Yeah, let's blow this fucking platform up, man. You know? I feel like...
Oh, I should go over here. There we go. That's how I line the sound up. I ain't no audio engineer, Danny O. Got Danny O on the Hunt for Greatness podcast. Welcome, Danny. Welcome, everybody listening.
Thank you.
Probably going to talk about some crazy shit tonight.
Yeah,
That's the vibe I'm getting from you, anyway.
Yeah, I'm definitely on a crazy vibe. I'm thinking it'd be nice to have a platform, and I really appreciate that.
Hell
There's
yeah.
some shit that I feel like needs to be said. I think more people need to speak up. And I feel like we should at least get this shit recorded and get it out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So what's up with that clip you sent me about the, like, nobody covering the Hunter Biden?
Okay,
And
so,
Joe Biden kind of trying to cover it up is what I...
Yeah. So this is going to be hard to follow. And that's one of the big things that I was thinking about when I was thinking about like how to do this. There's
Keep it as simple as possible
so
because I'm
much
an
going
idiot.
on. Okay, so something that's always bothered me, I don't know, I'm going to assume like nobody watching remembers my old podcast about the white fragility stuff. And I was really bothered about that there, but that's just like a total microcosm of everything that's going on. So I'm going to talk about like politics stuff. So there's this thing that could be best described as like a triangle going on right now. And everybody's familiar with it. We just had an election. It's 2020. There's the Democrat Party. There is the media.
Stay up on that, close to that mic.
So
There you
Democrat Party. There's like the mainstream media, the CNN, NPR, MSNBC, shit like that everybody gets their news from.
Fox, CNN.
Yeah,
Okay.
just all the cable news stuff, like the traditional media or whatever. That's like where we get our news from. There's the politicians, and then there is now social media, and it makes up the third part of the triangle. So social media and the internet and the tech companies and stuff like that, they're the ones that control who can give us the information. The media is the one that gives us the information, and then the political parties are the ones who are doing the stuff we need the information about.
So there's your triangle.
Yeah. And it's come to a point where now they're all on the same side, and half of America gets that. The other half does not see that, and it's causing all this huge controversy.
Same side as in liberal.
Yeah.
Leans way to the left.
yeah,
Social media leans to the left.
It's almost like they are, like I would describe them as liberal. It's the Democrat Party, but they're not necessarily what they claim to be anymore. So it's like, for the sake of simplicity, it's best to just call them left, I guess,
Yeah.
But it seems like, this is why it's hard to talk about, because there's so many different aspects to this over the last year, and just more than that that's happened. But it's like, the Biden thing, for example, it's like Biden's getting represented more by big money than Democrats ever were and ever claimed to be. They claim to be the party of the working class, but they're the ones getting the money from the Wall Street people. They're getting it from the billionaires of the big tech things. The big tech people are controlling the information that comes out. So I'll get to that in a second about the Biden thing, or the Hunter Biden thing. They're giving them money. They're controlling the information that comes out. The media people are also rich, and they're controlling that information too. The war machine is behind them. That's a lot of money too. Like the money where they, like there's all these giant warhead companies, and
Like
stuff
military
like that.
industrial complex.
Yeah. And they're supporting the Democrats because Trump wanted to get us out of there. There's a whole nother thing with that.
But their whole thing is stay in conflict.
Yeah.
Because that's how they generate revenue.
Money, power, influence, all that shit. So it's like they're supporting them. It's basically all the big rich, like the deep state, like all that shit is all on one side. And they've done a lot of things where it makes us afraid to talk about it, and that's why I wanted to be here, because I wanted to start speaking up about this because
well, I'm interested.
yeah, I feel like I've been following this shit real hard for a while, but I've been afraid to really speak up about it, and I've been afraid to speak up about it to a like on a record or in any type of audience because of all the kind of hate that's out there for it. You know, like if you say you're a Republican or something, people are like, oh, you must be a racist. Or
Right.
if you're against the Democrats, it's like, oh, well, you just don't like women or something. You know, it's like, so they kind of do this character attack thing. And then you say, no, it's for this specific reason, but the person you're talking to doesn't understand that reason because they weren't getting the correct information because of the way that triangle is. It hasn't gotten to them. So it's this really frustrating situation where it's like, if you're trying to talk to somebody who doesn't already agree with you, they have this preconceived notion about you, and there's nothing you can really deal with about it because they don't understand what your point of view is. And that's because we've got this brainwashing fucking super triangle going on.
It's also the individual's fault as well because they're not open-minded enough to take in any type of new idea from a fellow human being, not from the fucking soul-sucking media that doesn't give a shit about you. You know, it's. I feel like I would be more prone to listen to your idea that I don't agree with if you're like a peer.
Yeah, and we're like face to face talking
face to
about it.
face.
So
it's different on social media.
Yeah, like everybody's got this. There's all sorts of weird, dopamine neuroscience stuff going on when you're on social media with each other, and where people get in fights, and it's just, behind a screen. It's different. But that's another aspect of it. So they've changed the way that we talk to each other. Let me try and pull this together. So, like, a good example of it is what literally happened today. So if you talk to most Democrats or most people that watch, say, CNN, which is one of the mainstreamist, like, media sources you can watch, and they're all basically the same thing. CNN, MSNBC, PBR, or not PBR,
Pat
PBS.
Blue Ribbon.
Yeah, PBS.
Yeah.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So they're like saying the same shit, and they're all like, if you watch their shows, they'll say different things on the shows, but they're avoiding the same main issues, and they're making sure they say the same main issues. So it gives you this scope of, like, I've just watched 3 news shows, but I haven't heard about anything bad that Biden's done.
Right.
And I've only heard
huge
about
echo
bad stuff
chamber.
that Trump's done. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, there was a situation that happened during the election where half of America knows about this. And then the other half, even the well-informed people, don't know this shit. So, like, Hunter Biden is Joe Biden's son. He basically has been going around to big foreign countries, like ones that are like either kind of an opponent of the United States, or they're like kind of a rival, whatever. Like, he's been going around to their governments and collecting money basically for his last name. So he's like, if I give you contact to my dad, who's like, when he started doing this, the vice president,
right,
you will give me money. So he went to this place called, I think it was Burisma. It's a Ukraine oil company. And not just his son, Hunter, but his brother. I forget what Joe Biden's brother's name is, but basically all the Bidens are running around doing this. So he gets on the board of this huge oil company. He's got no skills in oil. He's never done anything about that in his whole life. He's not a businessman. He hasn't really done anything successfully. He's been caught,
he's a lawyer, right?
I don't know. I mean, I know he's
I think he's a lawyer.
If he is, did really bad. Joe Biden passed law school in like the bottom of the class, but his son's been caught like with hookers and shit. Like, he's Hunter
Biden.
Yeah. He's not doing anything that amazing, yet he's getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars every month to sit on the board of this company that doesn't have anything to do with his expertise. Just because his name's Biden.
Amazing.
So that came out a couple years ago, way before Biden was running for president. And the intelligence agency, without having really much knowledge of it, was just like, oh, this is no big deal. And they just kind of swept it on the rug. Nobody really cared because they didn't really bring it up on the media. And like the places that were like Republican news, they didn't really feel the need to bring it up that much either because Biden wasn't running at the time.
Right.
It was just kind of a non-issue. It's just another corrupt, lifelong swamp creature like Joe Biden, who's been a fucking politician since he was 27, and he's like fucking 80 now. Just another swamp creature getting rich off of his political office, or his family.
It's almost like extortion and treason.
yeah. I mean,
is
like,
there a word for that?
It's
a combination of extortion and treason, because he's extorting them because of his name. Like, he's getting money because of his
and
name.
He's treasoning us. He's
treasoning us because it's rivals of the United States.
Yeah, like he's literally selling out me and all of our interests to China and to Ukraine and to Russia. So basically, we knew this was happening, but nobody said anything about it. It's also happening with Russia. Like, there was a Russian oligarch who gave him a couple $1 million for no known reason, and the media didn't really investigate that. But then think about, like, the whole last 4 years, Trump came out, and we had this, like, Russiagate thing, where it's like, you know, a lot of liberals believe he, like, conspired with Russia. Whether or not that's true, which we don't have any evidence for, the media fucking went at it. Like, we were seeing that shit on the TV 24/7 for fucking 4 years. Whereas Biden's son's actually doing this. We knew he was doing this, and we didn't get any coverage of it. So anyway, so this is where it gets worse. So the election was happening. A couple weeks before the actual election, it came out that Hunter Biden had a laptop. And on this laptop, which he had given to a repair shop, but just forgotten about, there was videos of him, like, smoking crack with a hooker, and it had all this stuff about his business dealings in the Ukraine and with China and all this other stuff, like just damning evidence. At the very least, it's something we, the American people, should have been told about by the media. So I'm not even trying to get into the realm of whether or not he's guilty. All I'm saying is there was this huge evidence, and they didn't say shit about it. NPR, which is the government-funded media, so they're supposed to be the unbiased, like.
But they're government-funded.
Yeah. So it's like, theoretically, they should be in the favor of the people because this government is supposed to represent us.
We the people, yeah.
They had a main anchor that said, "Oh, we don't want to, like, confuse people with this. It's not really relevant to the election. It's just not a big deal. We're not going to run it." That's what they said. Now the election's over. Today, all these media companies are running that story. And they're like, oh, yeah, we just waited, 2 months from when we had this, and so now we're, going to bring up the fact that Hunter Biden, there's an investigation into him that started multiple years ago when this all came out. They're trying to go after him after a tax fraud angle. It doesn't really matter, because I'm not even really trying to talk about the Biden scandal necessarily. I'm trying to talk about the fact that the media knew about it.
Okay.
And didn't.
Well, this pertains to what you're saying. This, and you probably knew about this, but I believe it was a New York Times reporter tweeted about Hunter Biden and the laptop, and Twitter banned the New York Times.
No, you're thinking New York Post.
New York Post.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where.
So that's your media.
Yeah, so that's the triangle with big tech.
Right.
So
that's the one-sided.
The Democrat.
Right.
One side of the triangle, Democrats. Their main guy, the president's son. The other side is the media. New York Post is kind of a Republican magazine, or it's like conservative. It's more conservative.
Right.
So they were the ones who did that story about the laptop, and they got not only the reporter, but the entire New York Post got banned on Twitter.
Yeah. How insane is that?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, and they're in our face being like, we are not going to show you this evidence. So now you've got half the country that watches conservative shit being like, these people are directly they're saying we have this stuff and we're just going to directly ban it. So now you've got half the fucking country being like, these people are directly fucking us. You know? The other half the country, though, they don't know about that shit. Because they're like, oh, they're all conspiracy theories. It's been censored. Like, our media told us this is no big deal. So you've got this crazy triangle shit going on, and it's blocking people, and it's causing the split where it's like there's this guy, Bill Maher, who runs a late-night show.
Yeah, I know Bill Maher.
Yeah. So he said...
Liberal, real left-leaning guy.
Yeah. If we had a civil war now, it wouldn't be a Mason-Dixon line dividing the sides. It would be like a line down Nana's basement or whatever.
What does that mean?
So it's like within the house.
Oh, okay.
My parents, my family are all super liberals, and they watch nothing but liberal shit. So they don't even know about this, but they watch news 6 hours a day. I would not be on the same side as them in a civil war, technically.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But I would be because they're my family. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what makes it really fucked up. It's not a geographical thing, except it kind of is now because Texas is suing the United States. We can get in that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, so
holy shit!
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Don't forget,
17 fucking states are suing over this election.
Really?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I had
what I'm
no
saying.
idea.
It's like, so we don't.
That's all right. It's okay.
So we don't have a good source of information, and that is the fucking problem here. So what I've been doing, and let me kind of qualify why anybody should listen to me on this. So what I've been doing is I've been watching. So I grew up in a liberal household. I was super liberal. I voted for fucking Obama twice. I feel really bad about that now. I voted for Hillary.
He sounded good.
He did,
He
and I
sounded great.
was not involved. I'd grown up in a Democrat household. I'd watched Democratic news, so I knew that Republicans were evil, racist pieces of shit, or just rich people, and they're just basically evil, right? That's what I've been told, and I was like, this is just how it is. So obviously, I'm going to vote against evil. So I voted for fucking Obama twice. I voted for Hillary once, and then the last election, I voted for fucking Trump, which is not something I've said out loud because I'm a secret Trump voter, but that's why I'm fine to talk about this shit. So
I think everybody's a secret Trump voter.
Yeah, well, they
Everybody's
fucking
scared
damn
to
well
say.
should be.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this shit, because it's time to fucking speak out, because we
I
gotta
voted for Trump
break
twice.
this fucking triangle. Hell yeah, I wish I had.
Yeah, I voted for John McCain too. I think was it John McCain?
Yeah, yeah.
John McCain ran against Obama the first time.
And then Romney also ran
I
against
voted
him,
for
but-
Romney, but I wasn't happy about that.
All I
but
know is
did.
now is like I'm not stoked on Republicans. I'm just stoked on being against the establishment. You know, Rage Against the Machine.
Oh hell yeah!
Okay, so Rage Against the Machine right now, the people that listened to Rage Against the Machine back then, they are raging for the machine now.
That's
Biden
so weird.
is the machine. He's the swamp creature. You know, all the Democrats, they're the ones that are controlling all these avenues. They control how we get our information. They control how we talk to each other. You know, because like not only was
Sounds like
not only did the
communism.
New York Post get fucking banned, exactly. It's the same thing as like a fucking Stalin-esque thing.
Yeah.
So it's like not only did the New York
1984.
Post get banned, but then the same thing is I can't share it to you because I'll get banned on Facebook or Twitter, or they'll put a fucking fact check thing on it. It is very Orwellian.
It's very Orwellian.
Yeah. So it's like, on top of that, you have what I was talking about last time I was here, where I was forced to take the white fragility class, where it's like if you even challenge any of this stuff, one of the reasons people are silent is because you don't want to challenge this stuff, because that puts you in the category of the things I was brainwashed into believing Republicans were in the past.
Right.
So it's like I was thinking they're these kind of super bigoted, super like holier than thou, like on their high horse
Rich
type of
company
rich,
owners.
yeah, just like very fragile and not open minded, and they think I'm a freak, you know. But now it's like if you go anywhere and you say anything that doesn't that challenges kind of the mainstream, which is kind of the Democrat thing. Like if you say like the patriarchy is a made up concept, or if you say like Robin DiAngelo, the white fragility lady, is actually causing more racism to happen. You can't fix racism with more racism, even though that's what they argue. If I say something like that, I get attacked as a racist. Antifa wants to burn my house down, whatever it is. You know, like if you have like more of a, let me put it this way. So there was a history teacher that I'm friends with. I was on Facebook today. I was checking Facebook before I came here. A history teacher from where I went to high school. Some girl posted one of those stupid posts where they're like, name a job where you can lie and not get fired. And all these people were like, oh, lawyers, blah, 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 politicians. And somebody was like, history teachers. And this history teacher, really nice guy, not real involved with the political world. He's like, what? You know, like he's all hurt because of that. He's like, why would history teachers lie? And they're like, oh, well, because you don't like, you tell people that America's a good place. You tell us that America's not racist. You tell us that things have gotten better for black people since slavery. And he's like, starts arguing with that, and he gets fucking attacked by all these people. So whenever stuff like that happens, like you might wake somebody up to like kind of what you were talking about, where their mind becomes open and they get away from kind of that mainstream view of CNN or whatever, to where they're like, okay, I need to learn more and I need to look outside the box and kind of see how this goes. And that's kind of where I was trying to get with this thing about what I started doing. So I kind of got attacked over some bullshit like that. And the next thing I knew, I was like watching news from every different angle so that I would never be able to get blindsided by something I didn't understand again from any side of the aisle. So I'm sitting there consuming news from like every single day for the last like 4 years, basically. like every single day I'm looking at Kyle Kalinske, who's like an actual progressive.
Yeah, I know who Kyle Kalinske is.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I would be more centered. Like I'm all for healthcare for all. I'm for standing up for the working class. I'm for standing up for the normal person, regardless of their identity. I'm for helping the American citizen, not the rich people. Real progressivism, but not this like social justice bullshit.
Right.
So I watch him, but I also watch a Ben Shapiro, and I counterbalance it, and I'm like, okay, both these guys claim to be biased, and they tell me how a conservative and how a progressive looks at the situation. Just so I know what fucking NPR is saying, which is actually comes up as the PBS News Hour, which is kind of the state-sponsored media. And I use them as kind of the gold standard because they're supposed to be the fucking unbiased, boring, dry,
middle of the road.
Yeah. But they're actually straight up Democrat propaganda, and it's like,
wow.
You can see it if you watch more of these things, but most people don't want to do it. So then both the parties know they're just going after low information voters. So all you have to do is convince people of whatever random narrative it is long enough to get them into that fucking voting booth and going for their person. Yeah. So that's why it's such a big deal. When all of the fucking news channels don't run the Hunter Biden scandal, when big tech blocks the regular people from fucking sharing it or the people who wrote the story, and they do it with all the other stuff like that, and then it's like not only can the people not communicate, but we have this like propaganda coming out attacking one side. So you've got all these low information voters just being beamed over the head with orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. So they're going and voting against Trump not because they have a problem with his policy, just because they know that he's orange man bad.
Right.
If you have a problem with his policy and you vote against him, I'm totally cool with that.
Yeah.
What I don't like is when you've been manipulated into voting against something that you think is terribly wrong because it's been misrepresented to you by the people that are controlling you. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I feel like
for sure.
There's so many fucking
Makes total
angles to
sense.
this
That's
shit.
super simple, easy to understand.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You're doing a great job.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's very overwhelming to try to bring all this stuff up. So one thing that I had done when I was trying to get back onto this podcast is I started looking at all the different main media channels back from all the way to fucking 2000 to 9/11, like when the terrorist attack happened.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the way CNN covered it. I was looking at the way Fox News covered it. And then as the internet got bigger, I added a couple more things in. And I was watching them, like, I don't know if you can see me doing this. So, like, the CNN, which is, like, the left-wing news, even though they claim to be unbiased, was kind of going, like, steeply to the left. Fox News was kind of going slightly to the right. And then you've got all these outside medias. When Trump got into office, though, if you look at every big event in the media from every different channel, up until 2016 when Trump came in, that's when shit went nuts. So basically, any big event was covered completely differently. Like, let's talk about the Covington Catholic kids. Do you know what I'm talking about? So this kid, this is fucking nuts. So this Catholic school, Catholic high school, was on a field trip to Washington, D.C. They're from Kentucky. They went to a school called Covington Catholic. They went to Kentucky where they went to like the anti-abortion rally, the pro-life rally, which is super Republican, whatever. So that's what they're there for.
And Catholic, right?
And Catholic. They're a Catholic school.
Okay.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. So they're at a pro-life rally.
Right. Which is what they believe.
Yeah, and that's
as
fine.
religion.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
One of the kids is wearing a MAGA hat, though. God forbid. He's wearing the hat of the president of this country. Okay?
Right.
Terrible.
President-elect.
Yeah. Terrible kid. I guess he was the full-on president at this point. Because this was in, like, 2017.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so the kids get done with the pro-life rally, and they're in, like, this big town square part of Washington, D.C., waiting to get picked up by their bus. While they're there, there's a protest going on near them done by the Black Hebrew Israelites, who are, like, these crazy...
Yeah, I know who they are.
Yeah,
they're
okay.
in Wilmington, too.
Yeah. So they're pretty nuts, and they're basically saying that, like, Israel, the real Jewish people are like, actually, like, African or something,
yeah.
And it's like... They're the ones who have the rights to Israel, and they're super homophobic, and they're super, like, anti-white. So anyway, so these white kids from the Kentucky school are sitting there, and they're getting homophobic slurs yelled at them, and they're being like accused of like incest and all this crazy stuff by the Black Hebrew Israelites. So these kids are just kind of traumatized because it's like these grown men are just like, your mom's probably your sister, and like you guys probably fuck each other, and you're gay, and whatever.
Yeah.
All these, but they're saying it in like straight up like homophobic slurs.
Yeah.
So these kids are just standing there, but they're super polite about it. They're just sitting there. Meanwhile, there's another protest going on done by these Native Americans. And this one Native American named Nathan Phillips walks right up to one of the kids with one of those drums, and he starts banging it in the kid's face.
Saw a picture of that.
Yeah. So that's what happened. He bangs it in the guy's face. The kid smiled at him.
The one with the hat.
Yeah, with the MAGA hat. He
Keep
smiles
talking.
at
I'm gonna check the
Native
battery.
American guy. And then all of a sudden, he walks away. And that was it. That's literally the facts of the situation, right? So the next thing that happens, and this is where this gets relevant. So a bunch of journalists, like Kathy Griffin, who's actually like kind of a comedian, but now she's a journalist. All these left-wing journalists, blue check marks
Kathy
on
Griffin,
Twitter.
is that like Andy Dick's sister?
I don't know. All I know
She
is
kinda looks like
she's
Andy
a blue
Dick.
check mark, like Twitter.
She's got red
ID.
hair.
Yeah.
And she did the picture with Trump's head.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know
so
who you're talking
she's
about.
like a left-wing journalist now. She has like
Yeah.
a talk show.
Oh, I didn't know
She has
that.
a blue check mark next to her, which means she's the elite of Twitter. She does this thing where she like has just this talk show where she's super fucking SJW and liberal.
So she starts talking about this ordeal.
Yeah, so she shows a picture of the kid with the MAGA hat smiling at the Native American and goes, "This guy's got a fucking punchable face. We need to find out where he lives and fucking, punch him or something."
Yeah, she like calls for violence on a child.
Yeah. And
What's
all
that
these
called
other
again?
people,
Doxing.
well, yeah. If you tell
Right?
them where they live, it's called doxing. Or if
Yeah.
you say what their names are. So she called for them to be doxed based off of a picture.
Like somebody
But they
tell us
don't
who this
talk about
kid
the
is.
facts. All they do is they show this one little picture of this incident, and all it is a kid smiling at a Native American who's playing a drum. So it's like, yeah, that doesn't really paint a picture. You know what I mean? Like, but the whole media, this fact-checking, quote-unquote, organization, this organization is supposed to bring us the news. Rather than figuring out what happened, they just took this snapshot in time where this kid in a MAGA hat is smiling at a Native American, and they're like, we need to punch this kid in the face. Fuck this kid. Like, he is the pick. One of them said he's like, this is the epitome and the picture of privilege, of white privilege, or whatever. And it's just this kid smiling at the Native American, right? Over the next couple weeks, all the fucking videotapes of the whole incident start coming out. And all these media companies are like, whoa, so we actually said that these kids started everything, and they just went up there and were just putting their fucking privilege in, like, all these minorities' faces and, kind of pushing everybody around, when really they were just kind of, like, getting yelled at, and they were actually pretty fucking polite.
Yeah, a lot more polite than we would probably be.
So that's like 99% of our media was saying that. Now, maybe like Tucker Carlson or somebody like that on Fox News, he was saying it a little bit differently. I actually did a project on this for school for misinformation. And Tucker Carlson kind of presented it like Nathan Phillips has been known for kind of race baiting. Like he was in the army, but he was like dishonorably discharged or something like that. Like Tucker like looked at it and was like, this guy like kind of makes a big fuss and says he's a victim all the time. So it's like, you would kind of expect that from Fox News if you were kind of thinking generically. Or
right.
Or at least that's what like the liberals would expect from Fox News, is for them to take that side, right? But that was actually closer to what really happened. Whereas the liberal side, like Kathy Griffin, was just like, fuck this kid, we're judging him, we're going to make everybody hate this guy, like we're going to go way out of our way to like ruin this 16-year-old kid's life for no fucking reason. When they find out that more had happened, other than like that the kid didn't start anything, the Nathan Phillips walked up to him, the Black Hebrew Israelites yelled at them. They were just there waiting for their fucking bus. When the news found out about that, they did not issue any apologies. They didn't issue any corrections. If they, like some of them, like you could like fact check me on this and be like, oh, well, this one story changed. Yeah, they did. They did something called shadow editing, which means, say the New York Times write an article about it or something. They're like, the face of white privilege like stares down Native American or whatever. Then the rest of the information comes out. 2 weeks later, they go in quietly and change it to where they're like, oh, this kid was approached by a Native American who played a drum in front of his face or whatever. But they don't say that they edited it.
They
So
just
by
go
that
back
time,
in
the
behind your
damage is
back.
done. Yeah. So now you've already done the damage that you do to the low information voters, because fucking back to big tech, they're letting you share this. If it's fucking something with a MAGA hat that looks bad, Facebook fucking algorithm pushes that shit out. So not only do they obscure information about, say, the Hunter Biden scandal, they push out something where it looks like a Trump supporter's doing something bad, so everybody sees that shit.
Right.
They don't correct it, and you see this giant double standard. On top of this, when a lot of times when, say, like a liberal, like some of my family, like when they see like something unfair like this happens, they're like, well, Trump kind of deserves some like unfair coverage because he's like basically Hitler, So like they're like, so it's like, yeah, you think that, but then like let's square that knot or whatever, like let's tie that knot. So it's like, you think Trump is Hitler, so you think it's okay to treat him unfairly. So why would you not think that something unfairly was said about him that makes you think that he's Hitler?
Since you
now know that they treat him unfairly, right? So, like, for example, here's a really bad one. The Atlantic. So, fuck you, The Atlantic. It's a giant news organization, all right?
Shout out, fuck you.
Yeah, fuck you, The Atlantic. Okay, so what The Atlantic does, they wrote this headline. So a lot of the battle is done on headlines. So big tech pushes the headlines, right? And low information voters, all they know is headlines. So the headline says, Trump calls troops, like American troops, losers and suckers. And he calls, like, dead soldiers, like, just, like, losers or something like that. Like, do you remember what I'm talking about?
I think so. So
there was like this big thing, and all.
This was during like the election, though.
Yeah, and all the Trump haters are all pushing this shit. And then, so what I do, because I actually look at news, is I read the fucking article, right? Somewhere near the bottom, it said 4 unnamed sources, anonymous sources, said that Trump said this, right? I've got fucking 80 unnamed sources that said that Biden wished Hitler was still alive so he could exterminate all Republicans, right? Like, it's like
anybody can
bullshit.
say anything.
yeah. Like, unnamed sources, come on, and you make it this giant headline. So that's just like and then there's like 10 billion examples of these.
Yeah.
So I'd also like to say, just in case somebody's watching that disagrees with me, I would be happy to debate anybody on any of this shit, and we can fact check it on the spot. You want to fact check me on the Atlantic thing? We can bring it up right there and look at it. If I'm wrong, I will admit it, but I'm not wrong about this shit. It's the reality of the situation. They just know that you're not going to fucking look at it, so they can push it by you like this. And then you've got people like me who were seeing it, and this is partially my own fault, and this is why I'm so happy to talk about this shit and why I've been so wound up about this shit. People like me who did see it, who have like an interest and an understanding behind how you could be on either side of it, because I've been on both sides. I've been the low information voter, and I've been the guy that woke up to it. But I didn't say shit because I was afraid to, because I didn't want to hurt like my family's feelings or whatever, The way I look at it now, though, these people are manipulating my family, and I see it. I should say something about it, even if it causes like an awkward conversation. I'm going to do that now, And if more people like me had spoken up, maybe we would have been able to cut through this shit. So we need to fucking stop being secret Trump voters and actually say what the fuck is going on. The Atlantic is saying Trump called people losers and suckers, and I know a lot of you liberals that hate Trump think that actually happened. It was 4 unnamed sources. Go check it.
Nobody still knows who that was. The 4 unnamed sources.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a bullshit way to put a fucking headline that looks bad. So, like, towards the closer to the election, they went even more crazy with that shit. So they're doing like just straight up
this
fake
election
news.
Or the other one?
This election, this last election, they're just making it more and more fake news.
No wonder he says fake news.
Yeah. I mean, he says the media is the enemy of the people, and like I 100% agree with that shit. The Atlantic is the enemy of the fucking people. Like, they're literally like, you can find 4 unnamed sources for anything, so you make a fucking damaging headline that you know is going to cause this kind of shit. Meanwhile, like some crazy shit is going on, like our fucking country is getting sold out for money for Biden's son, and you don't say anything, right? Like, you're supposed to be the unbiased, the arbiters of truth, the people that fucking save us from the tyranny of the fucking, like...
The machine.
Yeah. Like, we're being oppressed, if you want to use that language, by the fucking Bidens, by the fucking swamp monsters, by the fucking CIA, all that shit, without getting conspiratorial about it. When these people cover for their shit, like Biden's fucking son going and sitting on a board for hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, when he's doing the shit with the Chinese CPP people, like that's the Communist Chinese Party or whatever, the China Communist Party, whatever it is. They had these higher up businessmen that paid him a shit ton of money. So here's one that crazy that happened. They waited to put this out. So Eric Swalwell, the Democratic candidate?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Eric Swalwell was one of the million Democrat candidates, right?
What do you mean, like that we're going to run against Trump?
In the primary.
Okay.
So Eric Swalwell was kind of just a milquetoast loser from fucking California.
Yeah.
Who was like super anti-Trump, and his main thing was Trump colluded with Russia. He's been compromised. Our president has been compromised, and he's helping a foreign power at your expense, America. Right? So guess what he just got caught doing?
What?
A Chinese spy named Christine Fang infiltrated his fucking campaign and banged him multiple times. Like, he had sex with this Chinese spy multiple times, and she got really close to the higher up part of his thing. Hilariously, also, he's the guy who was doing an interview and farted really loud. But anyway, so he's sitting there confused. He's sitting there accusing Trump of being compromised by a foreign power when he's sleeping, literally sleeping with a fucking spy from China. That's like some fucking movie shit.
That's crazy.
The Austin Powers thing, the spy who shagged me. But like okay, so the reason I'm bringing this up though, fuck the story. Like, fuck any of these stories. I'm not even talking about the story, even though they're crazy. The crazy thing is that you don't know this shit because you watch MSNBC. All you know is that it turns out Republicans are racist because they don't support Kanye West, whatever. You know, like they'll just say some arbitrary shit. It fits this little fucking thing that they push out to you. And the meantime, and you think he's colluding with Russia. Meantime, the guy you voted for actually is colluding with China. You know, they said Russia was our biggest danger and the biggest impactor on our election. Okay, a video just came out that played on Fox News, but nowhere else, of a Chinese professor talking about how much they affected our election and how.
Who, Russia or China?
China.
Okay.
Yeah, like China's really the one that's like fucking with us more, you know? And like, let's before, I'm not trying to be like anti-China, or I'm not trying to be like pro-America, anything like that. I'm saying like a lot of these people are in each other's pockets. So Biden directly, his family is profiting from China. Eric Swalwell is sleeping with a Chinese spy. You know, like all these people are doing stuff with each other. The Chinese party, they benefit from Biden being in office because Biden's a lot softer on China. He's willing to do
nobody's
this,
been harder on China than Trump.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Okay, so and at our benefit. Like, so for example, something that happens, and this is where kind of the rich people start controlling us again. The rich people that are the ones that donated to the Democratic Party, Wall Street. All right. So we developed the idea here, right? Then we did this thing called TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. It was something that Obama pushed. And what that means is you can get your labor as cheap as fuck in China building your product, and then you don't have to pay any tariff taxes on it to come back over here.
Outsources all of our American jobs.
Yeah, so now we don't have any factory workers because we're paying fucking 2 cents to the fucking people in concentration camps in China. Like, there are concentration camps in China right now for the Uyghur Muslims. That's a whole different thing. But either way, they've got that shit. They've
the
got
party
the
who stands for
nets.
equality.
Yeah.
Does that.
And it's like, well, meanwhile...
Equality for who?
Nope.
Not the Chinese?
Yeah, not the Uyghurs, not the ones that they're fucking literally having their heads shaved, put in trains, and sent to concentration camps on video. They don't say shit about it. Because the TPP, which is not only hurting those people, which is fucked up, but it's also taking away Pennsylvania's jobs. It's taking away Detroit automobile jobs. It's taking away all that shit and outsourcing it to a place in China where they're doing these giant factories that have what they call suicide nets, where they put these nets outside the skyscraper. Yes, because they jump off.
Doesn't that sound like, from the way we've been made to think, doesn't that sound like a Republican thing to do? Outsource jobs to make more money, to get more capital, to, you know what I'm saying?
And so I used to think that the party switched, right? I was thinking, like, when I was in high school, which, like, I graduated 2006, I was thinking, like, the Republicans were the ones doing that. They're the evil businessman, okay? So you would think, though, the evil businessman, wouldn't they want open borders so they can get cheap labor? Who's the party that you saw calling for open borders all fucking primary? When the fucking Democrat presidential debate that probably none of y'all watched, even though you're all fucking anti-Trump experts, this motherfucker, you know what I'm saying? These people were sitting there and they're like, okay, so are we going to give illegal immigrants free health care? And they're basically like, yeah, we're going to just like decriminalize border crossing, which is a nice way of saying we're not going to have fucking borders, okay? Who does that benefit? People that want cheap labor, people that want to establish a permanent underclass, because we're basically saying, hey, poor and beat down people from south of our border, come here, you're not going to be a citizen, you're going to get paid shit, and we're just going to not do anything about it. We're going to let you in, which not only hurts our people that are already here, which is why you see a lot more of the Latino vote going to Trump, but...
That's crazy in and of itself.
It's crazy,
but it's not.
It's not. Yeah, it's crazy. If
it's
you
crazy
look at
to
it from
somebody
the media perspective,
or just somebody who's done research from a surface level, or somebody who will just go with the first thing they hear, which is like I feel like why I kind of will dig a little bit deeper because I'm not going to go with the first thing I hear, no matter if I agree with it or not. You know, it's not. It has nothing to do with whether I agree with it or not.
Exactly.
You know, I just need to know what the truth is.
Yeah, we need to fucking start doing that.
Fuck if I agree with it. Who cares?
You know, and now here's the problem, though, is that they're silencing people like you. Anybody that's willing to do that, anybody that says, that doesn't sound right, I'm going to look into that more. You see how it's wrong, you say some shit, they character attack you, you know? So I used to think, like, oh, I better make it through fucking school before I do this shit, right? Like, I was in class, and some kid said something about, like, so I'm not like pro or anti-abortion. I don't care about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not an issue to me. Not something I give a fuck about. Anyway, I'm in a psychology class called Human Sexuality. Psychology of Human Sexuality. Seems like it would be a fun class. So I'm taking that shit, right? And we're talking about how men should take more responsibility for contraception because the entire school, and this is kind of, so the triangle I was talking about, each base of the triangle is kind of supported by other institutional things. So like
college.
Yeah. So like academia is incredibly left wing at this point. So we've got all this social justice stuff being pushed at us. So we're on a Zoom class and we're talking about how contraception matters and like men should take more responsibility for it and how women have it way worse than men and all that. Excuse me. SJW stuff. And as if it's just the only fact. Like whether or not you agree with it, we're getting it as if it's the only literal academic fact is that men have it way better than women, and like it's their responsibility to make sure women don't get pregnant because like how can we put that on women's shoulders? And some random kid was like, we need to take responsibility for our actions, right? Which is kind of a Republican thing. The entire fucking class and the teacher, and I'm not talking about whether I agree with it or not, they all jump on him. They're all like, you're a fucking bigot. You know, like all these
Take responsibility for our actions? And they say that?
That's what the kid said.
I don't understand.
The male kid in the class was like, people need to take responsibility for their actions.
People in general, like, male, female.
Yeah. Like and then he kept trying to defend himself because everybody's like, you're a bigot. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's like, oh, well, you know, we should, both men and women.
So they're saying he's a bigot because they think women shouldn't take as much responsibility for their actions as men, which is actually sexist.
Yes.
Which what he said is not sexist or misogynist.
So that's kind of like this thing George Bush said, the soft bigotry of low expectation. So we can get to that. So it's like we expect less of these oppressed classes. So it's like how can women who have a glass ceiling be able to take responsibility for getting pregnant or whatever? And that's what this conversation was about. But the reason I bring it up is because after they all got done yelling at him, and this kid is like crying on Zoom. It's
Holy
fucking
shit.
brutal.
It was on a Zoom meeting?
Yeah. It was brutal. God. While that's going on, in the chat, this one girl's like, I've had 4 abortions, and all these people are like, you're so great. Slay, queen. You know, like, and everybody's like, I'm here for you. And it's like, I'm not talking about like whether or not you agree with any of that, or if you agree with personal responsibility, or if you agree with abortion, or you don't like abortion, whatever it is. The fact that if this kid says people should take responsibility for their actions, he gets jumped on by the teacher and the class.
What'd the teacher say to him?
The teacher was like, "Oh, well, like all these women are really upset by what you said. Like maybe you should rethink how you look at things because you're actually coming off really bigoted." You know?
Oh, so we can't have more than one viewpoint?
No, not if it's anti that shit. But and then meanwhile, though,
there's only one viewpoint to be had here.
Yeah,
is what I'm trying to say.
And it's like the liberal shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, meanwhile, this girl's like, I had 4 abortions, which is like kind of a lot.
That's a lot,
whether or not you're pro-abortion or not, that's a lot of fucking kind of contraceptive-like use of that shit. And all these people in the class are like, you're so amazing, you're so brave. And it's like, is she really brave? Because she knew everybody's going to support what she said, whereas this kid was the one that was brave if he had known that he was going to get jumped on. So like what I'm doing right now, what you're doing right now is brave, because we know we're going to get jumped on if anybody sees this shit.
Right.
You know, like,
I could
and I will
not
take it.
fucking care less.
Yeah.
I really could not fucking care less. See, Danny will talk to you.
I care.
I don't give a fuck.
But I will argue.
Yeah.
And I will argue my
See, I
fucking
won't
point.
even argue.
And I have waited this talk because I wanted to be able to where I can argue any fucking point.
I won't
of
even
this
argue.
shit.
I just don't even give a fuck.
And I envy that.
It's
you
just
know?
so
Like, that's
hard to
amazing.
get somebody to change their point of view. You know, it's like, how about you just come on my boat fishing with me, or you come do a podcast with me, and we can disagree or agree or whatever. Me and you pretty much, we agree on a lot of shit. It's just, okay, here's what I like and respect about you. You're a critical thinker. You don't stop at the very surface level of something. You dig deeper than most people normally would. That's what I like about you. That's why I trust your judgment, and I'm always going to kind of try to see what you're talking about, even if I'm not as educated as you are on the subject or whatever it is. To me, that's like respectable. But if you can't even go past the headline or whatever, I'm not talking about just an article, but if you can't get past just that clickbait bullshit, or like if you can't get past me telling you an idea that I have that you don't agree with, and you can't let me elaborate and just tell you what I think and try to see it my way, or just listen, even if you know you're going to disagree, I have no respect for that. I just don't have respect for that. If I didn't agree with what that kid said about everybody should take responsibility for their actions, like, if I didn't agree with it, I'm not going to fucking jump on the bandwagon and beating the kid up.
Yeah. It's not about whether you
fuck,
agree with
dude?
him. It's about the fact that he has a point.
He's never going to say anything again.
Point. No.
He's never going to open his mouth again.
Or he's going to go radically to the other fucking side, which could be good, because he's going to be like, okay, I need to fucking arm myself so I can actually have a better argument next time, which is what happened to me. You know,
so he didn't really have an argument.
No, he didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know that saying taking responsibility was a trigger to SJWs. Like, you know, he just didn't know that. Now he does.
I'm pretty sure like 80% of college professors identify as fucking Marxist.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's around 80 fucking percent, or it's 80% Democrat and like 15% of them.
Actually, I don't want to talk about this too much because I am kind of dependent on them. In the psychology department, they're having a war between the critical theory side, which is kind of Marxist, and the not critical theory side, the science side. So here's another one that's fucked up between that triangle. So the Democrats are always like, we are the party of science, right? They're kind of like, they've kind of turned into this, they've kind of like turned science into a religion, you know? So it's like when we're talking about COVID, Trump is anti-science. It's like saying you're anti-God.
Religion,
you know?
is like blind faith.
Yeah. So
that's
you
what
have
you
to
count
have
on your
faith in
followers.
science. Like you're a climate denier. You
are. Fuck that.
You don't believe in masks. Okay. Well, but you fucking told us that masks didn't work when COVID first started. You know what I mean? Like, it's like. But either way, so the Democrats claim science. So if you watch the politicians in their speeches, like right now, they're always like, "Oh, thank God Joe Biden won because now we're gonna have science dealing with the COVID situation." Right? Here's a prediction. Here's what's gonna fucking happen. I guarantee.
Remember where you heard it first, people.
$50
on the Hunt for Greatness podcast.
Anybody that comes up to me and calls me on this, if it doesn't happen,
Danny O.
give me $1 if it does. Okay. Trump did Operation Warp Speed to get a vaccine made for COVID, right? So the vaccine is almost ready. It's being dispensed in England. It's coming out now because our FDA, which is the fucking giant swamp, made
try
it
it on them
slower.
first, right? So because they try to tax.
So it's fine with me.
They try to tax us for teeth.
I'll take my 99.9996 chance of survival. But either way, not even talking about the fact is Trump made a vaccine, right? Or he started a thing that made the vaccine really quick, like quicker than any vaccine's ever been made in history. But now Biden's about to come into office on January 20th. When Biden comes in, the plan to push out the vaccine was implemented by Trump, right? So Trump developed the vaccine. Trump got the army ready to dispense it to the American people. Okay? So this is going to happen. Biden's going to probably be in office. We'll talk about that more in a minute because there is some controversy there. But let's say Biden's in office. The vaccine goes out. Biden comes in. The minute he comes in, he's like, we need to go on a lockdown for fucking 90 days, and everybody needs to wear masks, and we're going to have this government mandate, as if we haven't been wearing masks into every store we've been into for months. God. Okay? So now the media is going to be like, thank God, we have science. Biden made us wear masks, even though we've already been wearing masks, but they're not going to say that. They're going to be like, Biden made us wear masks, and he put us on a scientific lockdown this time, even though California's been locked down the entire fucking time, and they have more deaths than South Dakota, which hasn't locked down yet, okay? Anyway.
That's because you're an idiot if you live in California, and you have a little bit more sense if you live in South Dakota. Because you're not stacked on each other like a bunch of fucking idiot
like
sardines, fucking
like
chimpanzees.
But either way, they're going to say science has been implemented. Right? Meanwhile, the vaccine's going to come out, and next thing you know, they're going to be like, Biden saved us.
He's our Lord and Savior.
He did everything. Trump didn't do shit. Trump was anti-science. He didn't do anything. But the media is going to do what they do, where they're going to ignore everything Trump's done. They did a survey recently. So polls really suck, but some polls tell us things. So, like, they went to a bunch of random people, and they were like, hey, did you know that Hunter Biden was involved in these scandals? And everybody was like, no. And they were like, if you did know, would you still have voted Biden? And they were like, no. A good enough percentage of people said no to where it would have changed the election. So that's the media that won the election.
That's what their mouth says.
The same thing happened with Operation Warspeed. Did you know that Trump fucking made us a vaccine?
I didn't know that.
Okay, did you know that Trump got 4 historic peace deals in the Middle East? You know
I knew it about like 2 of them.
Another one dropped today.
Really?
Yeah. So Morocco. Israel normalized relations with Morocco today. Wow. Okay? CNN ain't saying that shit. MSNBC's not saying that shit. Our fucking government, NPR, PBS is not saying that shit.
They don't say anything good about them.
No. They're just
really
like, but, Palestine's having trouble. So they'll mention that, and it's like, yeah, there's some problems there, right? But there's other shit going on that's really good. We just, like, when the beauty contestants had that fucking stereotype where they're like, what do you want? And then the beauty contest queen's like, peace in the Middle
World
East.
peace.
Yeah, and like, it's like this fucking hoop dream. Trump fucking did that shit, right? Like, he's got us peace in the Middle East between the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, and Israel, Morocco, some other place. I'm not, like, super great on the geography over there, but all I'm saying is, like, that is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
His fucking foreign policy. Now, like, to make it worse, though, once again, not about the story, let's talk about the media. Motherfuckers said when Trump got elected, they were like, he is going to bring us to World War III. All the other countries are going to be laughing at us because we elected this fucking guy. The opposite happened, right? But they're not telling us that. All they told us was that he's going to do all this other shit. So you've got all these low information voters in New York or California where they're all those fucking
scared of World War III.
Yeah, and they're like, and they don't know that Trump brought us fucking peace in the Middle East, like, or whatever. It's like closer to it.
The main tool they have is fear.
Yeah.
Is like,
and then we want to abolish the fucking Electoral College because it would help Democrats, right? What that would mean is every single decision in this country is made by fucking LA and New York, where it's like a ton of low information voters that don't know shit, that are getting bad information, and like have different problems.
Look what you've done to your state.
Yeah.
Look what you've done to your state. Look how hard it is for a good guy to get a gun in New York or California. Good luck getting a handgun in New York, where there's the most fucking crime in the United States, probably. Chicago. The cities with the most restrictions on a law-abiding citizen. This is what we're talking about here. Sorry, dude.
No, it's like, perfect segue.
What we're talking about here is a law-abiding citizen obtaining a firearm legally. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about some guy going and just buying a gun. We're talking about a law-abiding citizen obtaining a firearm legally. And like Chicago, California, New York City are some of the hardest places to legally get a firearm, and they're some of the highest gun crime in the United States. Chicago's, I think, the highest gun crimes in the United States.
Yeah,
Top.
Yeah.
Baltimore, Chicago, New York. I don't think California is, but probably fucking is. But I mean, look what you've done to your states.
The criminals have the guns. Let's bring this shit back to that triangle, right? Okay, so the Democrat Party, social media, right? So Democrat politicians say some shit like, you don't need an assault rifle, and like all these low information voters, what they think an assault rifle is like a fucking Gatling gun that somebody brings to like a fucking fully automatic elephant gun. Like, no, that is not a fucking semi-automatic rifle. So I had this conversation with my roommate. My roommate was like talking about like, oh, everybody's buying ammo because everybody's worried Biden's going to ban assault rifles, but it's not like anybody needs a fucking assault rifle. I was like, okay, look, like the fucking rifle in my room is an assault rifle. It's a fucking semi-automatic rifle.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, and nobody
knows what that shit is. I think just the assault rifle in and of itself, the word, term was probably coined by
fully automatic weapon. But when you talk to the Democratic politicians, will say some shit like that. So I think it was Bernie Sanders or somebody like that was like, was like, nobody needs a fully automatic assault rifle. And it's like, no, that's never been fucking legal. Like, we don't
you
have
to have
shit.
all kinds of crazy ass licenses to get
but they
a
don't
fully
fucking
automatic.
fact check him. You know, and then they blast it out and be like, oh, all these fucking Republicans have like these fucking assault rifles and missile launchers and just crazy things they don't need. When really it's the same thing as any other semi-automatic rifle. So you squeeze the trigger, the gun shoots, right? That's all it is. An AR-15 is a platform of a gun. But the people that are banning them don't know anything about guns. So they're just doing this low information shit. They're getting everybody spun out about it, being like, oh, it's these terrible things. They're not getting real
sharing
information.
and sharing and sharing.
The
and
NRA
sharing.
is evil because they're trying to undermine us, and they lobby politicians to have guns because the fucking Second Amendment, and that's a whole other fucking thing. You want to go into the
We're talking about the
thing?
Constitution.
Well, so that's under attack now.
Not
too.
up for fucking
The Constitution's
negotiation.
bad, though. Haven't you
The
heard?
Constitution
CNN
is
says.
not up for fucking negotiation.
Well, it
people.
actually is up for negotiation.
It should
right
not fucking be
now.
because
No, it
this
should.
is fucking. This country was founded on that, and we possess firearms to protect ourselves, the American citizens, from a tyrannical government.
Which is happening right fucking now. We need to fucking stand up, dude.
Strong societies make weak fucking men.
Yeah, like
We're
if we don't
fucking
speak
weak,
up, people
bro.
are not gonna know. And Biden is, or not, maybe not Biden, but like people are gonna take our shit. You know, like whether it's our guns or our rights or whatever, they're gonna take our shit. When fucking the Electoral College gets evaporated because they fucking turn a couple more places
What's
into
the
the state.
fucking Roman? Is it Roman theory or it's about strong men make strong societies. Strong societies make weak men.
I don't know who said it, but I know it's a fucking
what is
thing.
that
Yeah,
shit?
It's a
That's
big quote.
what
it
we're
might be
fuck-
Sparta.
That's what we're
Yeah.
fucking talking about.
No, I mean, it's
bro.
true, though.
Because
Yeah,
we're
like-
in the United States. Everybody knows nobody's gonna fuck with us.
But
Nobody's
they
gonna
will
bring the
now
war here.
because we're fucking up.
Weak. We're fucking weak.
Yeah, we're like super fucking weak. And okay, so dude, listen to this. There's a runoff in Georgia. If the Democrats win that shit, 2 more senators there, and then Kamala fucking evil Harris gets the fucking deciding vote, and watch Biden like mysteriously die, and she be's like the president soon. Everybody thinks that's gonna happen. It probably fucking will. Or they're gonna get him out for this Hunter Biden scandal. Maybe that's why they're bringing it up now, so that Kamala Harris can be the fucking president, because that's the fucking intersectional queen. She's a fucking monster, right? She was jailing fucking poor people. Like,
Yeah,
she was
she's a piece of
laughing
shit.
about it.
Defund the
She's
police.
from
That's what your
California.
fucking party believes, and then you elect like the biggest,
You're the
shittiest
biggest
fucking
cop,
policeman
yeah.
ever.
Like, Kamala Harris is literally on tape being like, ha ha ha, I put fucking people that can't afford to send their kid to school every day in jail. Ha ha ha. Like, and
Yeah,
she's
what
like
a piece
laughing
of
about
shit.
that shit. Meanwhile, she's talking about illegally smoking weed back when it was illegal. Like, and making shit up. And like she's just a fucking lying piece of shit. She called Biden a racist for opposing the busing thing.
That's the funniest part.
Most
Is like,
people oppose the busing thing regardless of color. It was not a helpful thing. It's like, do you want your fucking kids to be bused 2 hours away from you to where they don't know anybody, to where you don't know the people that they're in school with, to where you don't know the teachers, just so they can be in a school that's like mixing the races or whatever? It's like, yes, integrating is good, but busing was a bad way to do it. So Biden opposed it because everybody fucking opposed that shit. Kamala Harris disingenuously called him a racist because she's a fucking piece of shit. Just
yeah, she's a
disingenuous as
fucking
fuck.
piece of shit.
Don't get me started on that, though.
Fuck her.
Okay, so listen, this is what's happening now. So the election fraud stuff. This is a perfect example of all the stuff. So I'm not going to say anything about whether or not there was fraud, because in my opinion, it doesn't matter. Even if there was no fraud, even if this election was completely above the table and everything was perfect, right? Even if that is the case, the media still stole the election. Like, the fact that Trump was under a fucking microscope and being fucking torn apart by the media 24/7 for 4 years, and there was fake fucking things, or it's like they can survive a fact check because the fact check people are also part of that fucking triangle. So it's like the fact check people are like, oh, it is true. 4 unnamed sources did say Trump said he wished Hitler was around so he could exterminate all the Jews or something. Like, it's like, yeah, you can say fact check true, but it's like, what they would do for the other side, if a Republican said something, they'd be like, not true, it's unnamed sources, and they would call attention to it like their fucking job is to do. Whereas with the Democrats, they let it go. It's like a semantic game they play. So they're like, yes, it is true, the Atlantic article is true. 4 unnamed sources
Why do you
said
think
this.
Why do you think they side one way? Is
Because
it
they're
money?
part of the same thing. Like, so there's an organization called Media Matters, right? They have these names. So it's like, It'd be like if we started an organization. I'm stealing this from Tim Pool. So we start an organization and we call ourselves the Weak and Defenseless Grandmothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our name is the Weak and Defenseless Grandmothers.
But we're me and you.
Yeah, and then we get a bunch of other guys and we go around and we just like shoot every Democrat, right?
Shoot them.
Okay, and now
is that what you said?
Yeah, something terrible, something bad. Like we do something bad, but our name is the Weak and Defenseless Grandmothers. Okay, now when anybody talks shit about us, they're like the Weak and Defenseless Grandmothers are going around killing people. We need to stop the weak and defenseless grandmothers, and it sounds bad, right? So the Democrats do a lot of shit where they put the names like that.
Like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah, or Antifa, like anti-fascist. Like,
but they are fascists.
Yeah,
is what they
yeah.
fucking
But it's
are.
like if we try to say I'm against Antifa, then they're like, oh, so you're for fascism? No. So it's like if you're against me, you're against weak and defenseless grandmothers because we are the weak and defenseless grandmothers. You know, like so that's what they do, right? So Media Matters is a fact-checking organization. What they do is they watch Fox News or they watch Ben Shapiro or they watch fucking Tucker Carlson, whoever, anybody on the conservative side, and they try to either smear them out of context or they try to actually fact-check them if they do something wrong, which they usually don't because they know they're being scrutinized to this level and they know that anything that they do wrong will get blasted to most people, the low-information voters, so they can't do anything wrong. So Media Matters is inadvertently holding Ben Shapiro to a higher standard than CNN. But that's a whole different thing. But now you have this fact-checking thing, or like Snopes. So Snopes will do this thing where it's like...
They're kind of horse shit, right?
Total horse shit.
Yeah.
I'm about to explain how. So it's like, if I say, Biden, or like, let's say Biden killed... or this is a bad one. I'm trying to think of some fake-ass shit. So basically what Snopes will do, like, let's say Hunter Biden took money from Russia. Snopes would say, fact check, false. And then under that, where nobody will read it because they only read the headline, it says, Hunter Biden didn't take money from Russia. Hunter Biden was given money from Russia. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the fact check is a semantic game. So it's like they're playing with the words.
It's like some lawyer shit that they would do in court.
Exactly. And then
technically,
because all the media and all that whole triangle, the fucking big tech and the media are on the same side, they only show the fact checkers from this one side that says technically Hunter Biden didn't take any money from China. He was given it for his
he
services.
Earned it.
Yeah, he was on their board. You know, it's all good. But when Trump does something where he says like, these burgers were a mile high, you know, or whatever, and they're like, fact check, false. Burgers were only 2.5 feet. He's a liar. And then they put it on this check mark where they're like, Trump has now lied 350 times.
Oh,
you know?
my God.
And it's like, so it's like you've got this double standard, you know? So it's like on one side, it's like fact check, false. Hunter Biden didn't take money from Russia. He was given money for working on the board of Burisma. And then on the other side, it's like fact check, false. Trump didn't really have a mile high of cheeseburgers, you know? And now it's like you've got Tucker Carlson just lying about fucking Hunter Biden taking money. And that's like his 30,000th lie of that level where it's like some bullshit semantic thing you've called a lie. Meanwhile, on the other side, Trump's a liar because he said he had a mile high of cheeseburgers. You know, and now you've got this thing where it's like, well, Snopes always tells the truth because Snopes like... So now you have like these liberal people who are like... There's all these biases. So this is kind of my area of expertise with psychology. It's like we have various biases that affect the way we look at the world. So it's like I have a thing where it's like if I see something that confirms what I already believe, I'm more likely to believe it without checking, right? So if you've been watching fucking NPR for fucking 30 years, right, you don't know where the lies started. You know what I mean? So you have all these ingrained fucking things where you're like, Republicans are always evil. Trump is lying. This is his 5 millionth lie. Sure, some of them were about cheeseburgers, but other ones were about worse things like... And then he also said that the troops were suckers, you know, or whatever. And it's like all this shit compounds on itself for 30 years. You've got a super brainwashed person you're dealing with, and that's why it's really hard to talk to people. And they're pushing us further apart, you know.
Divide and conquer,
what I would do if I wanted to help somebody see through this shit that's like on the Democrat side, I would say, you need to start watching news from the right and the left. I don't care if you agree with one or the other. You need to see what they're saying, or you will never understand it. Because the people on the right understand the people on the left. The people on the left have a fucking straw man of the people on the right. So it's like the people on the right are trying to argue against what a straw man is like a fake thing that I've made out of an argument that I'm now arguing against. So it's like, if I say all Republicans are racist, now the Republicans trying to defend themselves and being like, I'm not racist, you're arguing a straw man, right? And it takes away from the actual debate.
Right.
So it's like, the liberals have this fucking warped view of the Republicans because they have this fucked up view that has been thrust on. It's not their fault. It's because the fucking people in power in that fucking triangle of the politicians who are the Democrats, the fucking media who are the Democrats, and the big tech who are also the Democrats have been making them think a certain thing. And it's like, now they think Republicans are what they've been told by all these institutions of power. And you have to trust the institutions or else you're a conspiracy theorist, right? Or whatever, whatever they think. Whereas Republicans know that they're being lied about. So they're like, okay, the news is talking about me. They're like, say some guy in fucking Oklahoma, and they're like, oh, I'm a guy in Oklahoma, like, and I'm not a fucking racist or whatever they're telling me that I am. So it's like they start looking, so they already know that it's bullshit, so they look elsewhere. But the liberals don't know that, they just know that this guy has a fucking automatic weapon, and he hates, like, anybody that's a different race than him, and he's, like, sexist, or whatever they've been told. Whereas the guy in Oklahoma is like, these people already think this of me, and it's creating this wedge, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and people are not being able to communicate. And, low information, right-wing people need to do this too. That's why, like, I've been getting further and further and further on the right, so to speak, as I've been watching this, and I believe that they are the ones telling more of the truth, or they are the ones standing up for things like the Constitution, or they're the ones not trying to change the way that we vote, or they're the ones not trying to change the Electoral College.
I just don't know how we're all not on the same side as the Constitution. I just don't know how.
Well, so that's where stuff like we got into the last podcast, which was like the 1619 Project, right? The 1619 Project was this thing that happened in the New York Times, which is like the gold standard of journalism, but it's actually fucking propaganda like a motherfucker.
Huge propaganda.
Like huge propaganda. And all the right-wingers know that. The left-wingers consider it the gold standard, so it's really hard to argue against somebody that reads the fucking New York Times and thinks it's
Well,
fact.
the New York Times said.
Yeah.
It's like the Bible.
So they came out with this thing called the 1619 Project, which argued that, and it basically didn't use factual history. It basically said that America was founded in 1619 for the purpose of having slaves, and it says that black people are no better off now than they were in 1619 when they were slaves. And because of that, America was founded on racism. We have the systemic racism thing, so our entire thing is corrupt to the core, and that's why this SJW shit is fairly dangerous, because they're saying everything about America is to oppress the oppressed and to give power to the white man. So it's like, rather than saying who is actually the oppressor, which is like the Bidens and the fucking Kamala Harrises and the Nancy Pelosi's and some Republicans, like Mitch McConnell, like all the people that are in power.
Yeah.
The kind of do-nothing Republicans and the fucking crazy Democrats that aren't giving us fucking aid. They're shutting down our businesses, and they're not giving us any money, but they've spent trillions of dollars on their own shit. Jeff Bezos, who's a Democrat, is making more money than he's ever made.
Nancy Pelosi's getting her goddamn hair done.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're not allowed to go out after 10 tomorrow in North Carolina, right?
I'll probably be asleep, but if I was a for real anarchist, I'd be out there in them fucking streets, boy. So if any of y'all's bedtime's after mine, go outside. You know what I'm saying? But I'll probably be fucking asleep. Actually, I'll have a brisket on the smoker, so y'all don't fuck with my smoker tomorrow night.
Okay, so basically my point is, these people are the actual oppressors, but they're convincing us that the actual oppressors are white people,
right?
Particularly men. So, and America's founded on that, so we need to get rid of everything America stands for, which is your Constitution. So, of course I'm against the Constitution, because I'm against racism, you know? And now you've got these fucking maniacs running around being like, we need to get rid of all this shit, and we need to fucking rebuild this Marxist utopia, you know? Or whatever, you know, whatever they've been convinced
bullshit.
of. Yeah. And
it's never going to exist. We got, 330 million people in the United States?
Yeah. Everybody's
never going to exist. There's always going to be poor. There's always going to be rich, and there's always going to be people in the middle. And that's just the way it fucking is.
You can take any room. If you have a room of 10 people and you divide it down the middle, regardless of any of the identity features of the people, there's going to be inequities, okay? I'm taller than some people. Some people are taller than me. I'm smarter than some people. Some people are smarter than me. Some people are richer than me. Some people are poorer than me, right? There's never an equality. There's that glass ceiling thing where it's like, oh, well, like 90% of the CEOs of Fortune 500 companies are men. Okay, well, nobody's a fucking CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Most men aren't CEOs of Fortune 500. You know what I mean? Like, it's a fucking irrelevant category area of an argument. It's like, yeah, there's some fucking power-hungry dudes in Fortune 500 CEO companies. Like, so what?
That fucking do cocaine and they don't sleep and they don't have any relationships with people and all they do is work.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, that's the type of that's the beautiful thing about America is like if you're not the smartest person in the room, you can be if you put in the work. If you put in the work, you can. If you're not the richest person in the room, that's the beautiful thing about America. If you're not the richest person in the room, you can be if you put in the work.
Yeah. Under our current system.
Under our current system,
we're semi-meritocracy. So it's like, yeah, you might have a worse starting place than some people, right? Like you might have some issues, like you weren't able to go to as good a school as me, or you weren't fed as much as a child, or whatever the problem is. Yeah, we have some inequities. All right?
Yeah, for sure.
But the pathway is still there. And as long as the pathway is there, we live in a pretty good fucking society. And that's why I'm, like, trying to keep it the way it fucking is. And that's why I'm, like, trying to speak the fuck up.
I mean, we can always do better.
And, like, what I want to do for a job is help people get to the fucking pathway of success from wherever they are, right? Maximize your life from wherever it is. Like, let's say you came from fucking poverty and your fucking family's nuts and you just have a terrible existence and everybody's bigoted against you where you live. Whatever the problem
doesn't have to end there.
It doesn't have to end there. You can maximize what you do through personal responsibility and hard work, Republican ideals, and you can better your life and get to a place where you're on track to better yourself over a period of time.
The thing that people have trouble believing is that it's a link in an unbreakable chain. And it's not. It's not a link in an unbreakable chain of poverty and oppression. Like, you can do something about it. Or you can fucking die trying. Like how our country was founded on a bunch of poor motherfuckers that didn't want to pay tax. Yeah. And they died for that shit.
Yeah.
Died for something that they believed in.
Kind of soon. You know, like if shit hits the fan of some kind, people need to fucking stand up. Like we're trying to fucking do right now. Like, you know, people need to speak up. People need to fucking stand up for what they believe. Stand up for this country. Stand up for the fact that we have a chance of success if we work hard here, which is better than anybody else has it, really. There's some comparable places in the world, but we don't live there. We live here. And we need to fucking keep it well enough the way it is. Like, yes, we can improve in some areas, but, you know, these are some of the reasons why I kind of gravitated more, because I realized if you take personal responsibility for your actions, not only do you take responsibility for the stupid shit you did, but you take responsibility for the fact that you can get yourself to a better place.
Exactly.
Right? So that's kind of the argument. So it's like people will say, this is a classic reason why they call Republicans like snooty rich, like racist or whatever. So it's like, if you're against affirmative action, so the Republicans' stated reason for being against affirmative action is because they're saying by giving these handouts, you're causing multiple problems where you're actually hurting the person more than if you gave them personal responsibility. So, for example,
like welfare, food stamps.
So, like, let's say
I agree.
You're somebody who's an affirmative action eligible person. So you're like a black woman, all right, and you get a 4.0 in high school. You work your fucking ass off. You go to a nice college, and you do really well there. You will never know if you got there for affirmative action or because you worked hard. So what Republicans are saying is you remove affirmative action. Not only do other people now know you didn't get there from affirmative action, you got there from hard work. You also know you got there from hard work. Right. So you now have more empowerment. Other people look at you like you got there from hard work, right? So it's like affirmative action is actually backfiring is what the Republicans are saying. And it makes sense to me, but it's like whether or not that makes sense, that's what they're saying. They're not saying we don't like black people. They're not saying we don't want to help black people. They're saying black people can help themselves get out of their way, you know?
Right.
That's the thing that George Bush said, the soft bigotry of low expectations. So like one thing that me and my parents keep getting in an argument about. So people always say, Republicans are trying to disenfranchise voters. So that's how they're trying to steal the election. They're trying to keep, so by doing things like quote-unquote voter ID laws. So they're saying you need to have ID when you go to the voting booth, right? Totally reasonable. We want fucking fair and safe elections, right? Well, the argument is, there's all these black people out there that are incapable of getting IDs. Fucking bullshit.
How inferior do you think these people are?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, who's the fucking bigot? Like, who's the one that's really racist when you're saying black people are incapable of getting a fucking ID?
I'm fighting for their rights.
All they have to do is get on their fucking like, you can walk to the DMV. If you don't have a smartphone or if you don't know anyone with the internet or something, like, you can get to a fucking DMV one fucking time. But at the same time, you happen to be like an activist Democrat. Like, so it's like you're super well informed on politics, but you can't get a fucking ID. Bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, it's a fucking bullshit argument, and it's also insulting to say that black people can't get fucking IDs. And it's like, it's also crazy to think, like, you know, like, so let's say, hypothetically, let's just for the sake of argument, let's say there is this small pocket of people out there that are like super activist Democrats that are really good, smart, hardworking black people that can't get IDs for some reason. Because they just don't have access, because their circumstances are hard. But they can still get to the voting booth, and they really like Democrats. Okay, just for the sake of argument. Sounds crazy.
Probably exists. So
there's
330 million people.
So let's say there's
probably
15,000 of them.
Yeah,
let's say there's 100,000 of them. Let's
really
a
lot.
Just for the sake of argument, right? But you've now taken away voting IDs, right? So how many more votes than 100,000 are going to come in that are fraudulent now? You know, so it's like, just for the sake of argument, let's say there's 100,000 people out there that don't have IDs, that can't get IDs, that are hardcore Democrats and want to vote. And
that's a lot.
So now you've disenfranchised that 100,000 by making a voter ID law, but you've kept all the voter fraud from coming. Now, what could voter fraud do? Speaking of 2020, let's say you take away the voter ID now. Now you have illegal immigrants voting. You have people voting like twice. You have dead people voting. You have all this crazy shit because you're not verifying who voted. Because you took away the voter ID law just so you could help these quote-unquote 100,000 people, for the sake of argument, get in. Now you have over 100,000 fraudulent possibly votes. And even if they aren't, the fact that now we think they're fraudulent gets you to the situation we're in now, where we have this lawsuit where Texas filed a lawsuit saying, so when a state files a lawsuit against another state, it goes straight to the Supreme Court, right? So Texas said, because Pennsylvania, Michigan, and like Wisconsin and Georgia changed their election laws, they are... What
did they change their election laws to?
So they did unconstitutional shit where they were like, we're just going to have mail-in voting for the pandemic, even though Fauci, the science... All hail Dr. Fauci. Because we're Democrats, because we're science. We like science.
Yeah.
So Dr. Fauci, the scientist, said that it was safe to vote, right? Because it's safe to go to fucking Walmart. It's safe to give the rich people in the department stores money, but it's not safe to fucking vote, right? Because mail-in voting, who's that going to help? Fucking Biden, you know? Who's it going to help when you take away the voting IDs for the mail-in voting, when you take away the signature verification? Okay, well, it turned out in Pennsylvania, they had laws against this in the Pennsylvania Constitution, but they did it anyway. And they knew that they were violating their own Constitution because the information came out about that. The Pennsylvania State Assembly or whatever was like, we are violating our Constitution. Should we do this? And they disbanded. They came back and they're like, fuck it. Mail-in voting. We want to, yeah. So Texas now has this lawsuit, and I'm really breaking this down into layman's terms. So, like, Texas is basically saying, because Pennsylvania did this, they're disenfranchising our vote because now our vote's going up against this fraudulent bullshit. So that's a big deal because Texas is challenging Pennsylvania, right? Well, all of a sudden, 17 more fucking states today joined Texas.
Damn.
So it's like, are we coming to a civil war? You can't say that yet. You know what I mean? Like, you can't say this is a civil war, but you can say this is a fucking more contentious situation than it's ever been during our lifetime.
Hey, if anybody's going to start a civil war, it's Texas, okay? That's who's going to fucking kick it off.
Yeah, whose fucking side do you want to be on?
They're going to release the tigers on you motherfuckers.
Or do you want to be on California's side where they're taking our fucking tax money because they fucked up with their shitty-ass policies? You know?
I think California, we should just... like put a bunch of damn C4 around the border and blow up the border and just push it off into the ocean.
Dude, actually, I have a solution to this whole thing.
Come on.
Kamala Harris, listen to me, you fucking bitch. Okay. Y'all take California.
And
that's it. Yeah, like just fucking take them. Take California, take Oregon maybe. We'll take some of the everywhere other than Portland.
Yeah,
like
keep that too.
Oregon's under this giant fight right now where like everywhere in Oregon's a perfect example of why the Electoral College needs to be here. So it's like everywhere in Oregon is red. It's all conservative except Portland. Portland makes all the decisions in Oregon because it's a giant city. So it's like give Kamala Harris and Biden and all these people, give them California, Portland, and maybe Seattle, my home state. Give them that.
How did we not
We'll just
figure
give them
out?
the fucking West Coast.
How do we not figure out that the city thing is like we want to call these country people stupid and shit, but like the people who live stacked on top of each other in cities, how are they smarter than the people?
Well, they get Starbucks.
Yeah,
in
that
their
sock
building.
water bullshit.
Yeah, they get to
Sounds
pay
like
$7 for a glass
Tastes
of
like
coffee.
somebody rang out water out of a sock.
Yeah,
Fuck Starbucks.
They get sock water that they pay $7 for in a cup in their lobby. So that's why
Okay,
they're-
maybe I'm a hillbilly
Also-
fucking redneck piece of
and
shit.
you have an automatic weapon. You know, like you just don't get it, bro.
No, maybe I'm a hillbilly redneck piece of shit. But when I look at the map and I see all the red counties of people who live and they have land and they probably farm and they probably have their own animals and they probably could be fully self-supporting if they needed to. Maybe I'm a dumbass redneck, but I just feel like those people could be just a little bit smarter than you idiots in New York stacked on top of each other. And if anything's there to show us that, it's the coronavirus. If it's shown us anything, it's like, why are we living
now? These
stacked?
fucking morons are gonna come bring their policies to us. You know, like all
They're
these
policies that also don't work in big cities. They don't work in big
they
cities
run that
either.
shit into the ground. They've got fucking poop everywhere. You know what I mean? Like
And needles.
okay, so like
Poop and needles.
Here's the conservative thing. This is another thing that won me over. There's a politician named Dan Crenshaw. He's a Republican.
Yeah, he's got an eye
Texas.
patch.
Yeah, he's a fucking
Yeah.
Navy SEAL.
Yeah, he's a
badass.
bad
He's a
motherfucker.
fucking badass.
Yeah,
he's
he's a
really
bad
logical.
motherfucker.
Okay, whether you disagree with him or not, he's a good dude, right? He says how he feels. He doesn't lie. He's like real about who he is. Unlike Kamala Harris, who's a disingenuous piece of shit. Anyway, Dan Crenshaw and all of Texas did this thing. I think it was San Antonio, actually. But they did this thing where they were like, we're going to help the homeless people by using the businesses in Texas. And we're going to be like, y'all all pitch in a fund. And we're going to clean up our streets. It's going to help your business, right? What is that?
Cigar? You want it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So they're like,
I think I had a lighter in here somewhere.
is this the one?
That doesn't work here. You're gonna have
So
to
they're
light.
like, do you have another one?
No, dude, it's fine, dude. I got big cigars in here.
Oh,
I'll
okay,
tell
as
you.
long as you got something.
I
I don't
do.
want to
No,
just take
you're
your
good,
only
brother.
cigar. So, dude, anyway, so basically they did it the Republican way. They were like, it's better for the city if we help our homeless people. So pitch in and we'll make this program to help it. Meanwhile, shitty-ass California is like, we're just going to decriminalize everything. We're going to let you have your tent on the sidewalk. We're going to decriminalize fucking heroin and crack and meth in Portland, whatever. And now what's happened? The homeless problem has gone way down in San Antonio and way up in the liberal places. They are doing a worse job by making it all about the government. That's the other big difference between the conservatives and the liberals. The liberals want the government to help them in every area. So
You're
that's
depending
always,
on something.
yeah, and it
Which
always
is a
it
huge
always has
mistake.
confused the fuck out of me because it's like you guys just spent 4 years talking about how Trump's incompetent, yet you want him to run your fucking life or whoever's in government. Like it's nuts, dude.
Which they say pretty much all of them are incompetent. And I'm not going to say I don't agree. Because a lot of you know who Trey Gowdy is?
No.
Fucking bad motherfucker. Congressman. But if you look, I'll send you some Trey Gowdy clips where you're just like, this dude's fucking just eviscerating. He reminds me of Matthew McConaughey. But like he was a congressman. I think he was Arkansas.
Dude, I forgot I was on zero nicotine.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
That thing's about to just load your mouth up with nicotine.
Yeah.
Oh, hand me those matches. I thought I had a lighter here.
I feel like it's okay because this. I feel like this is
It's okay, dude.
Like this is a big deal for me to be saying this shit too. Like, because what I was trying to say, it's like it really is like I was a secret Trump voter, and it's like people like me need to speak up. So this is kind of like me speaking up in a fucking on the internet where things are forever, And I will back up any single thing I've said, and you can look up any single thing I've said. Also. And I really hope you do, because then you'll see why you're wrong and how you've been misled. And you'll see who the real enemy is. The fucking media. And fucking, what's his name? The Facebook guy?
Zuckerberg.
Fuckerberg. Mark Fuckerberg. If you or any of your people are watching, fuck you too, Everybody get on fucking, what are the new ones? That's the other thing that needs to happen. So, dude, you know how people are all just assume that Republicans would win the Civil War because they have the guns?
Right.
Okay, well, who has communication? Who gives the information? Who controls all that shit? Who has the money? the left. So it's like, yeah, Republicans might be more armed, but we're completely unorganized. And by we, I mean like people like me who are like disillusioned Democrats. Have you heard of hashtag walk away?
No.
Hashtag walk away was started by, his name's Brennan something. It's a giant movement where people, it's hashtag walk away from the Democratic Party. So that's basically what I am doing right now. Like, this is my hashtag walk away. If I had to label this podcast, I would label it hashtag walk away. And get involved with that shit. So what happened to him, he was just like me. He was a lifelong liberal. He's a gay guy, so he's always been kind of, he's a gay guy from the city. So he's been always kind of stereotyped as he must be liberal, right? Because all gay people have to be liberal, because if you're not, there's something wrong with you. And he'll talk about this. I'm kind of paraphrasing him. I'm not just saying that. So his story is, he, in 2016, much like me, much like my friends, Trump got elected, and he's like, holy shit, we just elected Hitler. Because he knew that, because he's been raised to believe Republicans are, the whole thing we were talking about. So he's like, in his mind, he's like, we just elected Hitler, and all these people are cheering about it, right? And he's like, what the fuck? So he's on the fucking internet 24/7, yelling at people on Facebook, losing friends, losing family over shit on Facebook because he's calling them bigoted racists who support Hitler. Anyway, he's like blasting out this image of Trump supposedly making fun of a retarded guy, like a mentally handicapped reporter.
Yeah, I remember the clip.
Okay, so this is another perfect example of that shit. So he's doing that, and some lady who I think he was a family member with was like, hey man, you need to like look into this, and she sent him a link of an expose on that clip, and you can look this up at home, and I encourage you to do so. So it turns out Trump makes fun of a lot of reporters in the same exact way. So he didn't even know who the reporter was. He didn't know he had a mental handicap.
Like cerebral palsy.
Yeah, and he made fun of him the same way as he makes fun of other reporters. Now, you can say that's kind of crass and kind of shitty of Trump to make fun of reporters in general, but they framed it in such a way to make it look like it was the one time Trump ever did it was when it was to this guy that had cerebral palsy, right? Which is a lot worse than Trump just doing what he does every single time. So really, y'all are the racist or the anti-mentally ill, and Trump is equally treating everybody. Because
right.
He does that to anybody that asks him a stupid question.
Shitty.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like so anyway, so this guy found out he was lied to. And it blew his mind, just like it blew my mind, to find out that these things like the Atlantic article were wrong. So he's like, what else have I been lied to about? And he starts looking into all these incidents, like the Covington Catholic one, or we can just pull 1 million of them from our ass, where the fine people on both sides hoax, right? So he's like, okay, Trump said that there were fine people on both sides of the neo-Nazis and the KKK, right? But if you look that up and you look up the full clip, right before that, Trump says, I am not talking about the neo-Nazis or the KKK. There were fine people on both sides. But they cut out the part where he says, I am not talking about the people on... Right? And then they just play that. And now you've got this guy who's like, okay, we elected Hitler. He makes fun of fucking mentally handicapped people, and he fucking likes neo-Nazis and the KKK. Because you've just gotten lied to twice because you won't look into shit. Right? And he keeps looking it up, and he finds more. Right? Because there's millions more. For example, if you play a press conference of Trump, right? When he was doing the pandemic press conferences, which they stopped playing because his approval rating went up. But anyway, so if you play it on CNN versus Fox News, you'll notice that they play with the contrast and they play with that color bar thing on the TV with the video camera to make him look more orange.
Wow.
Yeah, everything they've done for the last 4 years is by design to make Trump look like
they probably up the pitch of his voice like 1 decibel to make him sound more feminine or not assertive or whatever. They probably fuck with that too, dude. Where are the matches at? Oh, right here.
Yeah. So they every single thing they do is by design to make him look like this fucking monster. When, he does have kind of an outrageous personality. He talks a lot of shit and he does a lot of stuff. But when you're a fucking Republican and you're used to being fucking strawmanned and fucking beat down and everything that you say and think is ignored, like that Hillbilly Elegy thing that just came out.
I kind of liked it.
I haven't watched it yet, but so it's like, there's a lot of people that have been just characterized as these evil, bigoted, white trash rednecks in the middle of America that don't know shit, and they're just bad. These people are real people that they know that they're being lied about. They know that, and they can't do shit about it because they don't run the media. They don't run the fucking Congress. They don't run whatever, They don't have a fucking Joe Rogan
What are
podcast.
people saying about that? About the hillbilly elegy?
So when it first came out, everybody was like, "This is great. It helps us understand the Trump voter, right?" But now
I don't understand
it
how.
characterized them in a good light because it was like these people are people too, and they're struggling and they have issues, but they also do personal responsibility stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it, so I don't really know. I just know what they say.
I mean, I liked it. I thought it
so
was
now they're saying that it's like it glorifies like rednecks or something. Like they're trying to make it look bad. They're like calling him like a bigot and dissing him from Hollywood or whatever. Like all the usual shit. The reason I was bringing it up is because I'm saying like
It's a true story of a motherfucker that it's a true story of a motherfucker that grew up in a trailer park and made it to fucking Harvard.
Yeah.
Or Yale. He made it to Yale. It's a true story.
Shit, just one left.
Go
Can I just use
ahead. No. Just use that match. There's a lighter around here somewhere, bro.
It's all
like a little. Oh, here it is.
Oh shit. The dude, yeah. So you see what I'm saying? Though it's like, so you've just basically they discharacterize these people. These people that are being treated like shit in the middle of America, or the Republicans in general. They know they're being lied about. They don't have a platform to talk back though. So they're just mischaracterized for years and years and years and years. They're used to being lied to. They know the media is full of shit because they know the media lies about them. Meanwhile, the people in New York are just eating it up and eating it up and eating it up. And it's like causing this division. And who's in the right there, Like, yes, the New Yorkers aren't the one that are fucking doing the news. They're the ones intaking it. But it's on you to fucking look this shit up. Like you need to realize
in
you're
a
getting lied
nutshell,
to.
what's the because that battery, I don't know how because I just put new batteries in it, but the mic battery's dying and I want to stop it before it dies. So, in a nutshell, what's the message you're trying to get across here?
Okay, let me think how to phrase this real quick. In a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is the media is not unbiased, okay? The ones that say they're unbiased are lying. You need to watch people who say they're biased, you need to watch people who say they're unbiased, and you need to watch people who say they're biased the other way, all right? On the same issue. Watch the same news story from each of these people, and you will see what I'm talking about, where one side is mischaracterizing the other side side is playing defense, and then the middle people, who are the unbiased people, are actually on the left. And they are part of the Democrat propaganda machine, and then big tech is fucking it all up too. And you'll see all of it just from watching the same news articles from 3 different sides.
The triangle.
Yeah, you'll see all of it, and you'll understand Republicans. Andrew Yang, the candidate who became kind of a sellout Democrat, who I was really excited about for a while because I thought he actually wanted to help the working class, but now he's just selling out. He's out there saying, if 72 million people voted for something, we need to understand why. Okay, let's say you're a fucking liberal. You voted for Biden, right? You probably didn't know that his son was taking money from everywhere based off of his name, selling out America for his own personal gain. You probably don't understand what TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, is. You probably don't understand what any of that shit is and what you just voted for. But what you need to do is fucking watch that shit from the other side, learn what they are saying, and very soon you will understand at least the other side of the argument. Somebody who's, I'll kind of try to close with this. A wise person said, if you want to beat somebody in an argument, you have to be able to argue their side better than they can.
Wow.
So fucking learn how to do that, but you'll end up on the other side. And in closing, anybody, and I really hope somebody watches this shit that disagrees with everything I've said, please fucking come on this podcast.
Yeah, come on the podcast. We'll have you on.
We'll have
I'll be the
respectful
mediator.
conversation about it. We'll have a fact checker.
I won't
on
let
hand.
Danny beat you up.
No. we'll do it respectfully.
Yeah, we'll get a fact checker. I got a good fact checker.
Because I was you. I used to think the same way. I used to think all these statistics and stuff that are misrepresented, I can tell you how they're misrepresented because I go to fucking school for stats. Come on here. Talk to me. Argue anything I say. We'll look it up on the spot. We'll go through it, and I will explain to you how you're wrong. You can try to do the same to me, and we'll see what happens.
I'd love to do that.
And if you beat me, I'll change sides.
We'll drink some Red Bulls. We'll get really fucking hyped up. But everybody who's listening to the podcast, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Any of the episodes.
I'm sorry that's really a scatterbrainy.
This was great. No, it was not scatterbrainy at all, dude. That shit was simple. You did a great job, Danny. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, man.
Let's do it again. I got a guy that I really want to do a podcast with you with that I sat in here for 3 hours and just talked to, like not on a podcast. And I think you would like to do that.
Was he?
He's my buddy. I grew up with him 15 years. Known him 15 years.
I'm down. Yeah.
He was a little hammered when we were talking. You know, he might get a little lit. But I think you guys could riff off each other. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. Danny, thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
love you, buddy.
I love you too, man.